There were 5 primary rationales which highlighted the need for the Merrill-Palmer-Revised. Early identification of developmental delays. Researchers in special education have called for a stronger link between assessment and early intervention. The Merrill-Palmer-Revised has cognitive, language, and motor components which are essential for identifying individuals who may later be qualified for services under IDEA. Assessment of preterm infants. There has been a dearth of tests that measured growth and development of preterm infants. The lack of sensitive measures available makes it difficult to identify the connection between preterm birth and subsequent developmental delays. The Merrill-Palmer-Revised addresses the need for an accurate cognitive measure and adjust scores for preterm birth, with the goal of increasing sensitivity and specificity in the identification of developmental delays. Measurement of small increments of improvement in development. There has been a critical need to demonstrate evidence of improvement following treatment and intervention. The Merrill-Palmer-Revised responds to this need and is sensitive to small increments of improvements in functioning. Reliable and valid scale of development for children with limited expressive language ability. The Merrill-Palmer-Revised has been recommended in special education for the assessment of children with limited expressive language, autism, and other communication difficulties. Expanding the age range to include infants and allowing administration in Spanish address this need for a measure for children with limited expressive language ability. Individual family planning for children with developmental delays. The Merrill-Palmer-Revised has a full complement of developmental scores, supplemental and diagnostic measures, rating forms, and parental questionnaires to provide information for the family intervention plan. The Merrill-Palmer-Revised uses a toy-based, hands-on approach, providing activities and colorful materials that engage even the youngest infant. Many of the original puzzles, pegboards, and other tasks of the original Merrill-Palmer scales were updated for inclusion in the revised version. Responding to recent advances in research related to cognitive development, the Merrill-Palmer-Revised took apart the items of the original Merrill-Palmer and matched them to documented cognitive abilities. The Merrill-Palmer-Revised provides national norms based on over 1,000 cases matching 2,000 census percentages of gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic level, and geographic region. Additional special cases were collected for clinical and validity studies. The measure has a high reliability, over 0.90 for IDEA-related composite scores. Extensive field testing was conducted over a 5-year period with studies of content and construct validity and fairness of assessment. Scores included normative standard scores, percentiles, age equivalents, and criterion-referenced change-sensitive growth scores. The Merrill-Palmer-Revised is organized into 4 major assessment batteries. Number 1, the cognitive battery and resulting developmental index includes the cognitive, fine motor, receptive language scales, along with supplementary scores for memory, speed, and visual motor ability. The cognitive scale is the main scale used to assess developmental skills and includes fluid reasoning and crystallized ability. The fine motor scale measures the ability to accurately manipulate materials and the ability to perform quickly in assembling materials. The infant language and receptive language scale measures the ability to understand and follow spoken directions and give nonverbal responses to verbal questions. Infant language is not included in the developmental index, as it was seen to be a socialization scale. It is scored, but sums are placed on the right hand of the summary report form. The supplementary scales, as previously stated, include infant memory and memory, speed, and visual motor. 2. The gross motor battery includes measures of both developmental progression and indicators of dysfunction. This scale follows several different skill areas that cover an age range and also includes quality of movement and unusual movement. Quality of movement is a record form on the back of the gross motor battery record form that examines several different motor difficulties. Refer to Chapter 4, Quality of Movement section, in the manual for definitions of terms. Unusual movement is a checklist to the right of each gross motor item of unusual movement patterns that should be examined to look for potential problems in motor development. Also refer to Chapter 4, Administration Instructions section in the Manual for Definitions of Terms. 3. The parent rating forms include the Self-Help Adaptive Behavior Scale, Expressive Language Scale, Social-Emotional Developmental Scale, Social-Emotional Temperament Scale. Please make sure that you do not confuse the Social-Emotional Developmental Scale with the Social-Emotional Temperament Scale. The Temperament Scale will not provide you with information for the 5 mandatory developmental domains. 4. The examiner's scales include Examiner Rating Scale of Test Session Behavior, Social-Emotional Problem Indicators, Expressive Language Examiner Report. Raw scores on all cognitive battery scales and the rating scales are converted to normalized scale scores. Raw scores on the cognitive battery are calculated by adding the earned cognitive totals from items actually administered, plus the start point values from credits given for items prior to the starting point. A developmental index quotient, DQ, with mean of 100 and standard deviation of 15, is derived from the raw scores. Normative and gross scores are also available for each rating scale, the gross motor development battery, and other developmental measures administered by the examiner or completed by the parent or guardian. Gross scores allow teachers, school personnel, caregivers, etc., to target specific skills that may be easy or difficult for the child. These strengths and weaknesses can be incorporated into individual education and treatment plans. Gross scores are also beneficial for repeated measurement and may be particularly helpful with lower functioning children.